Welcome everyone to our weekly live stream here in coming to you straight from San Miguel de Allende. This week, welcome everybody. I'd like to give a big welcome, Blaine, Nerdono, Michael Huerito, Denise, Nature Lover, Wilfredo, Cindy, Gringos Are Us, and Denise, I think I mentioned you already, Denise, but welcome to our live stream. I'm going to start doing a little bit of housekeeping like I always do. The first thing that I want to, I didn't do a video this week. I was busy actually doing, we were judging a competition, as you know from I posted it on my community tab. Also, I didn't do the live stream at 12 o'clock because, as you can tell, if you've been on my Facebook, I was at a brunch with family. That's where I've been. So I'm going to touch on a subject tonight. Actually, I think a couple of my viewers reached out to me on something that happened just recently. So I'm going to go into that situation tonight. Before we start with anything else, I want to say that it was Arizona State University, not University of Arizona, on my last that I went to. Someone corrected me. And the great thing I love about our community is that someone corrected me, because I basically, on my last live stream, my surprise live, I said, oh, this is Arizona State University, home of the Razorbacks. But I didn't know that Arkansas, not Arizona, sorry, Arkansas. I don't know why, but I always say Arizona. It's Arkansas State University. And someone corrected me that says, hey, this is University, the Razorbacks are University of Arizona, and Arkansas State University is the Timberwolves, and they're two different universities. And it's a perfect example how I'm talking. I always, oh, Stephanie Beckman, how's it going? Anna, hey, and Mel Larkey, welcome from Lake Chapala. That's one of the great things that I talk about this community. Someone corrected me, and this is what I'm looking for, us helping each other out. I don't have all the answers. I don't know all the answers to everything. So, you know, it's great that people step up to the plate. So that's what's beautiful about the community that we've built. And that's why I always say, I look for, hey, Jim's Home Comfort, how's it going? That's what I look for, is quality, not quantity. I don't make money off of this, like I tell everybody. But I am going to ask the community to help. I'm also going to do a video to ask the community for some help. And it's not for me, it's for somebody else. Unfortunately, I don't know how many of you watch this channel, but it's been brought to my attention. And I'm going to go over tonight what happened. And I want to make very clear that what happened could happen to anybody. So this is not a criticism. This is not, I'm going to do a more detailed video about what they did and why they're in the situation they're in right now. But one of the reasons why I want to discuss this tonight, and I'm going to do a video about it, is I always talk about the rules. And many people will say, well, the rules, they're just suggestions, or the rules, you know, Mexico doesn't care, or a lot of YouTubers do that. Oh, don't worry about having this permit or that permit. You don't have to worry about it. Mexico is really forgiving. And actually, that's one of the mistakes these people did, was they actually took somebody's advice on Facebook or somewhere that said that they were able to do it. But this is why I always talk about knowing the rules, having a plan B, even if you don't want to follow the rules, or more than likely the rules don't get followed. This is why I say, make sure you know the rules. Make sure you have a plan B. For example, I always talk about this with people that run to the border. And I have a lot of people that tell me, oh, I do it all the time, it's no big deal. Yes, fine. If you can get your 180 days every time you go, that's not a problem. But what happens if you don't get that 180 days? And what happens if you only get 5? What happens if you only get 7? You already have an apartment rented. These are the grave consequences that I talk about. People only getting 7 days and all of their stuff. Robert, super chat. Thank you very much for that, for that super chat. Thank you. But the thing about it is that one thing about Mexico, and I know that people say, you know, and there's one YouTuber that makes a big deal out of this. Well, you know, Mexico laws are just like suggestions. They're not really rules. They're not really laws. And that's not true. And this is what happened to these people. And I hate to use people as an example. And that's why I'm going to ask for your help at the very end of this, because I don't want this to turn into a critique of what they did wrong. And they were, I don't want to hear comments of they were stupid to not do this, stupid to not do that, because it wasn't that. It was their lack of doing the proper research. And they ended up in a situation where it's not good. And this is actually, thank you, Robert. Yeah, actually the super chat popped up right now. But I'm going to actually show you the YouTube video. And the reason why I'm going to show you is if you can, I'm going to jump to my screen real quick. And if you can take down the name of these people, because they have a GoFundMe campaign right now. And they're Tanaj and Tino Travels. Apparently, I didn't know about this channel. It was brought to my attention. And I'm going to put them up on the screen right now. So let me see if I can get out of the way here. Tanaj and Tino Travels. They have a GoFundMe campaign right now. I'm not going to play the video. I'm going to go ahead and do a more in-depth video about what happened. These two individuals were YouTubers. They quit their job and decided that they were going to do the van life thing. The van life, I guess, is popular on YouTube, where you build out a van and you live out of your van and you go different places. These two individuals decided that they were going to go out of their van and live out of their van, and they were on YouTube showing their journey. Unfortunately, the first mistake that they made was they didn't get a tip on their vehicle, okay? And unfortunately, I know it's a very stressful situation for them. And like I said, this is not a critique, but this is why I stress you need to know the rules. You need to know what's going on. And I guess it's popping up again, it's Robert, your super chat. Thank you. You need to know the rules. And this is why. This is a perfect example of why. I'm going to explain to you. I'm just going to give you a brief description of what happened. They drove, I guess they're from Louisiana. They drove from Louisiana in their van. They crossed in Brownsville, Texas, and traveled the coast down to Quintana Roo. Okay. Apparently, when they crossed through the Texas border, they didn't get a tip, or TIP, temporary import permit, for their vehicle. Apparently, I guess they understood that in Quintana Roo, you don't need a tip because it's a free zone. There are several free zones. It's within 25 kilometers of the border. It's Baja California, and I think they also traveled to Baja. I haven't looked at their videos. I just saw this one, and I'm analyzing this one. But Baja California is a free zone. You don't need a tip. And there's a part of a highway going down into Sonora that's part of the free zone. Here's the problem. Even though Quintana Roo is a free zone, you need to get to Quintana Roo. So once they hit kilometer 26 from the border, they were lucky they didn't get pulled over then and get their van confiscated. But they made it to Quintana Roo, I guess, or they said they were in Baja and other places. They were getting ready to go back home, I guess, or they were going to go back up that same route. And some individuals told them that's a very dangerous route. I don't know why you even came down that route to begin with. It's a very dangerous route. You need to go this other route. And they decided to take these people's advice to go the other route. And the thing was, they had heard that they needed a tip, but they had also heard from somebody, I don't know if it was personally or on Facebook, that they had the same problem where they left the free zone They didn't have a tip. And the Mexican government was nice enough to let them go back into Quintana Roo, go get a tip so they can come back. So they figured, we're fine, and we're going to go this other route for safety reasons, which is very practical. They should have gone that route for safety reasons. It's not something they did wrong. They went the route. They left the free zone. They left the state of Quintana Roo. They get stopped by customs. They had no idea why customs was in the middle of Mexico. But what you need to understand is that customs is part of SAT, which is the revenue collection agency for it. They do the IRS revenue collection, and they also do the customs revenue collection. And it's not uncommon to have these checkpoints all over Mexico. And these checkpoints are specifically for checking your tip. You can ask Gringos or us, when we came out of Nuevo León, or when we went to Nuevo León, or when we went to Monterrey, they actually had to have their tip. There was right after the toll booth, that I even told them, they're going to stop you right here. They got their tips. The Gringos or us they're here right now. They can attest to that. They had to have their paperwork in order. One of the things is I've done a lot of videos on tips, and I've always said this: make sure you have the tip, make sure it's current, because the ramifications is having your vehicle confiscated with little to no recourse. Pretty much your vehicle gets confiscated and you're lucky if you get it back. And I've told everybody this millions of times. And I've also had people tell me, yeah, but it's just a formality. They're just a suggestion. No, here's the thing. Yes, those people probably that they heard it from did get turned around and someone cut him a break. But it's just like getting a ticket in the United States. What happens when you get stopped by a cop? Maybe the cop is going to give you a break. Maybe the cop's not going to give you a break. Maybe you can get off with a warning. Maybe the cop will say, drive safe and slow down. Or maybe the cop's going to give you a ticket. So you can never rely on information. This is why I really, really shy away from Facebook groups, and I've tried to keep my Facebook group very drama-free. Actually, there was one comment that was just made when I was on having lunch with family. I posted about being in a place where I saw a Porsche in the parking lot, and I made a comment that, hey, everybody, they have Porsches in Mexico too, because I was trying to make a point. And someone did something. I left the post up because I responded to him. But I don't like those kinds of fights and those kinds of insults. I don't like that in my Facebook group. I don't like that here. Usually that means an instant ban for anybody that wants to insult somebody else or anything else. I don't know if that person knew I was the admin, but I let him keep his stuff up. But this is why I tell you, you need to be very careful. Just because it worked for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Well, long story short, they got their van confiscated, and Murphy's Law played into effect. And one thing after another, I feel for these people, and I am actually going to, at the end of this, I am going to place a link to their GoFundMe campaign in this live stream. If you can help them out, you know, everything that could go wrong went wrong. They were not able to get their van back, but even flying back to Houston, it was the day of the eclipse. They ended up having to sit at the airport for 4 hours waiting for someone to pick them up. They had nothing but problem after problem after problem after problem. And, you know, I really feel for this couple, but at the same time, they made some very serious mistakes. And the first mistake was they should have gotten a tip when they entered the Texas border. Actually, standing mannequin, it used to be a sticker that goes on the windshield, but it actually now is paperwork. Most border crossings did away with the sticker, and you just carry the paperwork in your, the sticker is long gone. Actually, the sticker used to have all this stuff that they could read with a computer, but nobody ever had the computer to read it. So What basically happened is they got their man taken away. They were able to get a lawyer, which was a good thing. They did the right thing, got a lawyer, because pretty much the problem is that here in Mexico, processes are very bureaucratic. I know the frustration. I know a lot of people were saying that it was corruption in Mexico, but they did actually get shaken down in Mexico City. Everything that could go wrong to these people went wrong. As a matter of fact, they even went wrong with their credit card at one point because the credit card company sent them a new card or something to that effect. So they really weren't prepared. They went down here with a tip. And I know several viewers said, hey, can you help these guys out? Can you? They said, can you help these guys out? And unfortunately, I can't. Even with my contacts, this is something, when you have a vehicle taken away like this for the tip violation, it's something that pretty much it has to go through the legal process. And that legal process can take a long time. Not only that, but the fines are probably, they said somebody told them $10,000. But sometimes the fines are even more than what the vehicle is worth. I know this because my brother-in-law has defended people like this that have had their vehicles taken away. He's a Mexican lawyer and an American lawyer in the United States. But he also has defended several people. And actually the people have had to say, and actually friends of his that he's defended, and when they come up with the fine, the friends say, well, shoot, I could go out and buy a brand new car for that. I'm not going to pay the fine. And it ends up getting sold. So hopefully they can come to a deal that they can get this. But that was the first mistake. They didn't get a tip. Just because you're going to a free zone doesn't mean you don't need a tip. Because once you leave the free zone, once you left kilometer 26, the first mistake they made was they entered in Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville, Texas is one of the most dangerous crossings. This is why I give safety warnings. This is why I do videos about going through Laredo, because everybody thinks Laredo is safe, but not all the time. Not only that, but they also, when they hit kilometer 26, they needed a tip. Regardless of whether they were going to Quintana Roo, regardless if they were going to Baja, if they needed to get from Baja to Quintana Roo, from Quintana Roo to Baja, there were areas that they needed a tip. They would have been better off just getting a tip to begin with. The other issue that a lot of people have is that you can get your tip online, yes. And also the other thing is that your tip, what you need to remember about your tip is that nobody's going to stop you at the border and tell you, hey, where's your tip? You need to do that. A lot of people make this mistake. They drive into the border and they say, well, nobody stopped us. No, they told us to keep going. I didn't do my immigration paperwork. I didn't do my tip paperwork. You need to remember, you have to have everything in order. Regardless of whether you're going to Quintana Roo, yes, you don't need a tip, but you still need to get there. So that was the first mistake they made. They entered into they went a very dangerous route. Obviously, they did not do their research. That's a route that nobody takes. As a matter of fact, people told them, how did you even get here? That route is so dangerous. It's full of nothing but narcos, and it's full of nothing but police and checkpoints. And they were like, well, we just drove. And so I stress how important it is to do your research before you come here. Don't come here aimlessly. Don't sit there and listen to a YouTuber that tells you that don't worry about the rules. Or don't worry about the laws. They're just suggestions. Yes, maybe sometimes they're suggestions, but not all the time. And one thing I need to tell everybody, and I stress very, very, very much in my videos, is that when I tell you that there's a law that says that they'll take your vehicle, they will take your vehicle. And they will follow the rule to the letter of the law, literally. Okay, what I always say about Mexico is, yeah, sometimes they'll cut you a break, but when it comes time to enforcing the law gets enforced to every single measure. There's no breaks. There's no I'm sorry's. There's no pleading ignorance. That is the problem that happened in this case. But we all need to understand that, yes, I can say, yeah, it was their fault. They didn't do their research. They didn't do this. They didn't get a tip. But this is not something to criticize these people. They didn't know any better at the time, I guess. And I'm not here to criticize them. I'm here to help them out because I'm sorry, but everything that ever went wrong could go wrong. I mean, I'm not just talking about losing their van. I mean, they couldn't even rent a car because their credit card wouldn't go through because their credit card got sent. These are the kinds of things that you need to do, have a plan B. For example, if you run to the border, let's say you run to the southern border and you're just, like I said, I know people that have gotten stuck in Guatemala, they've gotten stuck in Belize. Be ready, have your credit card ready to be able to fly home. This one individual couldn't even get home because at that time, the pandemic, his home country of Canada was shut down. That's what I always say, always have a plan, always have a backup plan. If you have a credit card, always have 2, have 3. That, as a matter of fact, Gringos R Us, they just experienced a medical emergency, and they were prepared for that medical emergency. They were very well prepared. Gringos R Us literally has a spreadsheet that they have out, that they've been doing all of this research and everything else. And that's the type of planning that you need to do, is need to sit down and have a plan B, know what's going on. If you're going to run to the border, make sure you know the laws of the tip. As a matter of fact, they were in a van that was converted into a living space. They could have gotten, literally, they could have gotten a 10-year tip and claimed it as an RV. I don't know the exact RV, but they possibly could have gotten a 10-year tip for that van. So you always remember, they got caught off guard. They didn't have any idea. They heard that someone got a break, and they were saying some of the Mexican officials were trying to help them out. Others didn't. Actually, the Mexican officials did help them out. They were out in the middle of nowhere. They got them onto a bus at least. But it's a very sad thing, and we need to understand that we're in a different country. Just like I said, if someone tells you, oh, well, the cops didn't give me a ticket, well, maybe the cops didn't give you a ticket, but that doesn't mean the next person in line isn't going to get a ticket. The next thing that these people did, they drove to Mexico City because they were going to the airport. They rented a car. They had no idea that in Mexico City, there's a law that on certain days, odd numbers license plates can drive on the road, and other days, even numbers license plates can drive. This is very common in Latin America. They got stopped by the cops. And of course, because they had the wrong license plates, they weren't supposed to be on the road. And then the other thing too is they didn't know how things work in Mexico City, because as a matter of fact, the cop tried to shake them down and say, hey, well, you can take care of the fine here. That's usually what happened. In Mexico City, if you tell the cop to give you a ticket, I don't care, give me the ticket. Take my driver's license, give me the ticket. And don't get me wrong, these people were stressed out. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how it works there. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. You need to go. You need to go, and you need to make sure you research everything. And they ended up saying, the cop said, well, how much do you got? And they said, well, whatever, 100 pesos or whatever. And the cop says, well, I'll just take that. And then when she went to give it to him, he's like, no. Put it in the car. And that's the reason why, is because in Mexico City, they have body cams. And they didn't want to, they just reached into the car and grabbed the tip. Usually and these are things that happen that you need to know about, because if they would have insisted on getting the ticket, they probably would have gotten the ticket, maybe gotten their driver's license taken away. But more than likely, they probably would have also gotten let go, because the cop doesn't want to go through the hassle of giving a ticket. So, and also in Mexico City, there is a way and an application that you can actually report corrupt police. And so even if you had to pay off a police officer, you can actually report them. So, just remember, yes, Wahoo fan, Razorbacks are the name of the University of Arkansas, not University of Arizona. That's the Wildcats. Yes, and I'm sorry, Wahoo fan. I keep using Arizona, but it was Arizona. No, Arizona. I keep saying Arizona. Why? No, it was Arkansas State University, and that's actually. I think. Are you the one that told me that it was that corrected me? Actually, Arizona State. Yes, it's the Sun Devils, and U of A is also there. Actually, there's a U of A and an ASU in Arizona. Goes to show you what I know about football. I do know about football there. And unfortunately, Arkansas, I didn't know that there was 2 universities, just like there was in Arizona and Texas and all that stuff. But it was Arkansas. With University of Arkansas, I wasn't at the University of Arkansas. I was at Arkansas State University, which is the Timberwolves or Wolves. And that was the one that has a campus in Querétaro. Unfortunately, on my live, I said, oh, this is Arizona State University, the home of the Razorbacks. And that's why I was saying this is great that I have people, we're a community that, hey, chasing the American dream. And Arkansas State University, yes, Güerito, the conference went well. I really did enjoy it. I graded some really great projects, very interesting projects. I did one on the bid. We graded the day of the business projects, because the business projects, there were a couple that had to do with crime. So I was invited to go and judge, and it went great. And I really, that's another thing that I want to do is Red Wolves, not Timberwolves, Red Wolves. Thank you, Wahoo fan. And actually, I think you're the one that, I'm not sure, but are you the one that corrected me, right? If I'm not correct on my live stream. And thank you very much for that. Yes, Arkansas is the Red Wolves. Yes. And actually, coming back, I bought a T-shirt there, and I looked down, and it was the Red Wolves. I made a mistake. So that's one of the things that you just really need to know what you're doing when you come in. Just don't come aimlessly here, or listen to other people on Facebook or YouTube. I'm not saying don't use YouTube, because that's one of my mediums of communicating with you. I'm not saying only trust me. Everybody has good content on YouTube, but you've got to, I always say, go through more than one Facebook group, go through multiple Facebook group, and ask the questions on my Facebook group. See what the consensus answer is, and that's normally your right answer. When you start getting one person saying, nah, don't worry about it, or you're stupid, or I see all sorts of insulting things on Facebook, and instead of helping, they do more harm than they do good. And yes, there is too many mascot names to remember. But actually, Wahoo fan, I didn't know. You know what? Because of football, and my dad was an avid college football fan, my dad would always say, we always knew the Razorbacks because of their football team. And unfortunately, I didn't know that there was an Arkansas State University and a University of Arkansas. And actually, I got to go to the University of Arkansas campus in Arkansas. My sister-in-law used to work there. So that's really, that's really what I wanted to stress here. And it's not that, and what I'm hoping is I'm going to put this GoFundMe link I'm going to copy their GoFundMe link, and I'm going to ask that you guys donate. And it's not even donating to get their van back, because to be honest with you, I don't think they're going to get their van back because of the bureaucracy. And if they do, it's going to be at such a voluminous cost that any help that you guys can help out, but it's not just their van, it's everything that happened to them. I mean, they were down to their last penny. They almost got stranded here in Mexico, and I don't like to see that happen. Regardless of what I say that they did wrong or they didn't do wrong, we need to help out. That's what my community is all about. Thank you for listening to me. I am going to do a detailed video. I'm going to break down what happened. If you can go to Taj, what is it, and Tino Travels, and please help them out, even if it's just to recoup the expenses of getting back home. Luckily, they're back home, and they're back home. They're safe, and by the grace of God, they got back home. So let's not criticize them. I don't want anybody going over there and telling them, no, you should have done this, you should have done that. No. What I'm here to do, and I don't want to come across wrong here, but we need to learn from this. Everybody needs to learn from this. And one thing I always say, what they went through, I'm not glad that they went through it, but at least the good things that can come out of this is that we learn a lesson. And unfortunately, they had to learn the hard lesson. And when I talk about in my videos that the consequences can be grave, this is a perfect example of how the consequences were grave. And yes, this is one out of millions of people or thousands of people that come through Mexico, millions of people that come through Mexico every day. But just that one grave consequence, to see them crying and to see them suffer what they suffered, that's not worth it. We should have no grave consequences, zero grave consequences. And we shouldn't have YouTubers out there telling you that laws are just suggestions. We shouldn't have YouTubers saying, don't worry about it. Mexico doesn't care. Don't worry about it. They'll let you go. Don't worry about it. The cops let me go. I didn't have to pay any fine, or I didn't have to pay the ticket. That we shouldn't be doing that, because it's each individual's experience. I can tell you, in the 7 years that I've been here, I've been stopped at checkpoints. I've been pulled over. I've never had my car searched. I've never had a ticket. I drove past cops at 100 miles an hour or 80 miles an hour, and they don't, even with the radar out, I'm like, oh, shoot, and they don't stop me. But that's my experience. Just because they have never stopped me in 7 years doesn't mean that they're not going to stop you. And that's what we need to understand. And cutting brakes, all of that, it's just like in the United States. We have laws, customs. I can tell you this right now. I worked for an entity that was attached to customs laws and customs and importing and exporting. When I seized a vehicle for customs, many times when I seized a vehicle, being an agent that enforced customs law, when I would seize a vehicle that had drugs in it, many times maybe there was an innocent party that didn't know that they just lent the car. And I can tell you, in the United States, the bureaucracy, sometimes it would take the innocent individual up to a year to 2 years to get their vehicle back. And then, guess what? You get hit with a fine for storage. Even though 2 years has passed, you now have to pay 2 years of storage for a vehicle that you just loaned to somebody, and you didn't know that there was drugs in the vehicle. So what happened here in Mexico is nothing different than what happens in the United States. Trying to get your vehicle back because you weren't following a customs law is a bureaucratic process. It would take you the same 2 years and thousands of dollars to get your vehicle back if that happened to you in the United States. So, and Michael Goody, that's that. I knew the horror story from someone who got married in China. Then they divorced. Long story short, the wife ended up receiving over 50 grand. Yes, and you know what, Michael? This also happened. This also happens a lot with employee contracts. A lot of times people go and they hire a housekeeper without realizing that they're supposed to pay Social Security. They're supposed to pay all these things. They're supposed to give a vacation. And sometimes they'll fire somebody. When you fire somebody, you have to give them certain, as a matter of fact, I should be doing a video. I have been meaning to do a video on workers' rights here. But there's a place that they can go and they can sue you. And 99% of the time, the housekeeper wins. The employee wins. The system is set up here for the employee to win if you don't give them the benefits that they deserve. And so some people you'll just go and I'll just hire the maid. She charges 300 pesos. Oh, and don't worry because she only comes 1 day a week and that's not full time. So I don't have to pay Social Security. No, there is no way around it. You're supposed to be paying Social Security even if it's 1 day a week. You're supposed to be giving them at the end of the year a certain amount of times of the salary that you pay them. You have to give them vacations. There's all sorts of employee rights. And these are the things that people get caught up in that they don't even know that they were supposed to. I was just paying a housekeeper 400 pesos to come in and clean my house once a week. And all of a sudden now I'm stuck in the middle of a lawsuit and I'm having to pay all these fines and I'm having to pay these people back a lot of money. That's why you need to research all of these things. Mel Larkey. Back in the 90s, we got stopped by U.S. Customs, had a coconut. They tore our van apart. Yes, that's true. They will. Believe it or not, one time I passed U.S. Customs and it was chicharron, and of course chicharron didn't dawn on me that it was pork. I mean, I know it's pork, but it didn't connect. I'm getting a little old. And I was taking some pork across, and luckily they didn't tear my car apart, but they took it away. But I could have gotten fined up to $1,500 just for having that little thing. It was a little bag of pork rinds or whatever, and you're not supposed to bring pork into the country. And it wasn't pork rinds, not the artificial ones that you buy in the bag. It was real pork, and so they just took it away and says, you're lucky we didn't give you a fine. But that doesn't mean the person behind me that brings in pork is not going to get fined. I know plenty of people that have ended up with fines. As a matter of fact, I used to handle that all the time. When they used to find something like that, they used to call us. I was a duty agent. I would get a call. We found pork, or we found this, or we found that. And all I would tell them is, do whatever administrative stuff you need to do, or fine them, or whatever. They would call me first, and sometimes I would say fine them, and sometimes I would say don't, let them go, or just take the stuff away. Most of the time I'd tell them take the stuff away because it's not worth finding somebody $1,500 for a little bag or a box of pills that they didn't declare. So this stuff happens in the United States too. Don't think that this is just corruption that happens in Mexico. These are laws that are actually valid laws in Mexico. Now the corruption is when they got into Mexico City, is when the cops asked them to pay the fine up front, and then basically asked them, well, what do you got? We'll take care of it right now, here and now. But, I'm so surprised at all the comments. And yes, I'm impressed at the comments of the support that they're receiving. But some of the comments were, I'm so sad that you're a victim of the corruption and the bad Mexico. And it's not. That's not corruption. Their van got taken away for a legal reason, a true legal reason. And unfortunately, like I tell everybody, ignorance is not an excuse. Not filing your FBAR in the United States, ignorance is not an excuse. I didn't know is not an excuse. That doesn't escape you from the $10,000 fine that IRS is going to give you if you don't fill out an FBAR. If your account at any point in time Mexican account hits more than $10,000. And what's going to happen? Same thing I told you. Be careful with the dollar app. Because even though they might not be considered a bank today, they may be considered a bank tomorrow. And then you didn't fill out your FBAR. And guess what? You get fined $10,000 because some YouTuber told you it was the cheapest, best way to transfer money. And... oh, thank you, Robert. Another super chat. Thank you. And I also pay a well-known Mexican licensor who works hard for me. He's worth $300 per hour. Saved me from my ignorance several times. Yes, Robert. Actually, one of the things that, thank you, Robert. Thank you. I didn't feature, actually, you're going to pop up here with a super chat. I appreciate it. But you know what? The one thing they did right is get an attorney, because trying to do things yourself, I'm going to tell you right now, even when I tried to do my immigration process, they were talking There we go, Robert. Your super chat came up. And basically, one of the things that we had to do when we went to immigration is it was like, you don't have this form. You don't have that form. You have to go to the pavilion. Where's the pavilion? Well, you know, the pavilion, everybody knows where it is. Well, we didn't know where it was. We ended up going back and forth and getting all the paperwork and whatever was missing, but it was 8 or 9 or 10 trips to the immigration office. And what did we do the next time? We hired a facilitator. Give an informed man a couple of bucks. He is more than worth it, folks. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. I don't do I'll repeat it again. I don't do it for the money, but what really is cool about these super chats, and when someone bought me a coffee the other day, you know, I really do use it for the coffee when I'm up late editing. What I make on this channel is probably enough for about 3 or 4 cups of coffee, but and I pay out of my pocket to keep this going. But the reason for this channel is, like I told you guys, I want to help you guys out, and hopefully you guys can, you know, even if it's $5, if I can get 100 people to give $5, that's $500. If I could get 100 people to give $10 to this GoFundMe, that's $1,000 that these people have to recoup their costs. I mean, they literally got home penniless. So please, I beg you, I ask of you to please help them out. And if I don't get the link tonight, go to their page, give them words of encouragement, and don't berate them because they did something wrong. They had to pay the price, and it's a price that I don't wish on anybody, and I don't want anybody else to pay that price. And I suggest that you go watch that video. I don't know if they're monetized or not, but watch the video. And even if you can donate through Super Thanks, if they have that, support them the most that you can. Give them words of encouragement. I had to put in there, unfortunately, you know, you might have to be patient. You might get your vans back, you might not. But I implore you, help them out. Even if it, and they even said, you look, we thank everybody for the donations. We know it's hard times. I'm not asking for money. I'm even asking to go over there and give them words. Let's pour as many comments in that video as we can and say, we hope that you get your van back. And tell them that I sent you. And we want you to get your van back. And hopefully we're going to try to help the best we can, because this is what it's all about. It's about helping each other, even when somebody makes mistakes. Let's get on to, I've gone on for 47 minutes, so let's get on to some of our conversation here. Michael, if Claudia wins the election, I really hope that she starts clamping down on the violence and corruption. Actually, Michael, I don't, I'm not too familiar with Claudia. I do know that she was the Mexico City is a federal district, just like Washington, D.C. D.C. has a mayor, but it's kind of like the same thing. They don't call them the alcalde like they do here with like a mayor of a city. Is usually called an alcalde. She was a presidente del DF, which means she was the governor, kind of governor or mayor per se of Mexico City. And I do know that she's cramped down a lot on, thank you very much, John Garcia. Thank you very much for that. And Super Chat, I look forward to watching the video once the information is provided. I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. I'm in the middle of trying to get back to Monterrey in the next 2 weeks, so I'll try to get that video out this week. Where was I at? Oh, Claudia, as far as violence, I was back over here, Michael. She's been a big proponent of women's rights, and also there was a couple of cases in Mexico City that were females that disappeared, and the police kind of didn't want to do anything about it. And she basically intervened and says, you will catch these people. It's no excuses. And they went and did it. They did it. The police did their job, and they caught the kidnappers. There was someone that got into a taxi and ended up, they found the body later on. So she's very much into cracking down on. I know on female, Mexico has a problem with domestic violence and femicides. They even have the underreporting of femicides, because what they will also do a lot of times will report it as a homicide and not a femicide, because they get less funding. The states get less funding. So that's why they don't report it as femicides. But I know she's a big proponent of trying to. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Like I said, I'm in for a couple of dollars for them. Others have done it for me. This is a country with very kind people. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Yes, go over there. Actually, if I can't get the link up right now or fast enough, then you guys go over to that YouTube channel and please, like I said, donate or even give them some words of encouragement, please. Michael, that's correct, Ernie. She was that. I feel that like the hard hand of El Salvador, Ecuador, now Argentina, Mexico could follow soon. I have no idea how, but we'll see how it goes for her. Yeah, we're going to see how it goes for her, Michael. She's going to be the first femicides and domestic violence. Yes, femicides and domestic violence are a problem here. I know Nerd. Scheinbaum will just be continuation of amulets of hugs, no bullets. Actually, Nerd, I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I'm not sure if I'm not positive that it's going to be the same. She's a little bit different. She's an academic. I think the party line is going to be the same. The ideals are going to be the same. I don't get too involved in politics. I know a lot of people don't like AMLO. All I've seen from AMLO, to be honest with you, and I'm not complimenting or criticizing him, is the changes that have happened in the last 7 years, in the last 6 years that he's been president. There's been a lot of changes in immigration. There's been a lot of changes. I don't know for the worse or for the better. There's some immigration changes that were for the better because they finally got their immigration system. They finally got their immigration system working and up and going. Hey, Jim. Oh, you're from Lindsay, Ontario. They got their immigration system computerized. That's one of the things that I saw. There was times where they got stricter on immigration, 180 days, other times that they didn't. Yes, there was some incidents that I know that they let one of Chapo's sons go at one point. There's a lot of things that are going on in Mexico. I don't get involved in the politics, to be honest with you. I've just seen the changes. The minimum wage has gone up. And here's another thing, too. I'm probably going to do another video, is that I'm going to do another video on the possibility, because if Claudia gets in, Sheinbaum, and they still keep using the minimum wage, she is actually proposing a 2.5 times increase. That means a 250% increase in the minimum wage here in Mexico. So you can imagine if it's unaffordable now, and let's say it's a 250% increase in what it is, like 3,000 maybe is the lowest consulate, it's going to be 12,000 if they keep using the minimum wage for financial solvency requirements. So those are different things that could happen. Or they could just say, you know what, this is getting out of hand. We don't know. Nobody's going to know what's going to happen until the elections on both sides, to be honest with you. Mel Larkey, just going around town here, and I'm learning of all the many different parties here in Mexico, so many more than just PRI and PAN. Yes, there's a lot of political parties here. The Morena, there's the Movimiento Ciudadana. There's several parties here. So let me see here. Alvarito, I think someone had a question. Robert, I'm not sure who it was that, but my chat is going so quickly, and I was talking and I wasn't paying attention. But if you want to ask that question again, please do. The Calderon administration never clamped on the corruption, but made cartels from other bands wealthier. I'll leave it at that. AMLO, from the economic perspective, has done quite. I doubt Claudia will. We'll see what happens, Michael. But the problem that has also happened, especially in the drug war and the violence, is we have one problem. The United States is the #1 consumer of drugs. So, I know there's been a lot of talk about sending the military in and everything else. I don't get involved in that politics, but it's all political rhetoric, because right now there's a re-election. A lot of people are up for re-election, so it sounds great that we're going to send the military to bomb the cartels. It sounds great on paper, but there's no way that that's going to happen, because Mexico's a trading partner with the United States. If they bomb the cartels and Mexico said, you just invaded us, there'd be all sorts of international problems. That's just political rhetoric. And I know the Mexican president has stood firm on that we're a sovereign nation. You can't just send your people in here. You can't just send your military. And like I said in my my video, like I said in my video, the days of bowing to the United States are over here in Mexico. Whether you want to blame AMLO for that or what, I'm telling you, it's not just AMLO. It's the Mexican pride that's coming out now and saying we're not going to take it anymore. So that's it. For what it's worth, that's what it is. My local Mexican national friends have their concerns. I'm for women's rights and watched her live interviews in English. I'm trying to learn Mexican law and support women's rights. Yeah, you know what, Robert? The difference between her and AMLO, I'm just going to, not that I'm saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. The big difference between, she's an academic. She's got a PhD. Her husband is a PhD. She's actually, I think, I want to say a chemist or a nuclear, I think she's a PhD in sustainable energy or what is it, chemical, it's some type of degree. I don't remember what kind of degree she has, but it's in science. So she's an academic. She's an intellectual. I think she's going to handle political situations a little bit more. I think she's going to be up in an uphill battle, being the first female president, especially with the concerns for women's rights here. She's going to have a lot on her plate. I'm just telling you right now. And the world situation right now that's going on in Israel and everything else, she's going to have a lot on her plate if Claudia wins. And she is the one that looks like she's going to win. But even if we have the second place front runner, yeah, she's big on, actually, Denise, Claudia's a big thing on sustainable energy because she actually has her PhD. It's some type of PhD with chemistry and sustainable living and energy. So she's very much into that. Yeah, exactly. Supply and demand, baby. Yep, that's what it is. And if the United States can reduce their supply, and I'm not here to say that the United States shouldn't be enforcing their drug laws. I mean, I was on the front lines of the drug war. But the drug war needs to be, I can tell you from personal experience, from being on the front lines, I can tell you that it's not just enforcement. It's not putting more Border Patrol agents on we need more Border Patrol agents on the border, but it needs to be a multi-pronged approach. Putting more agents on the street, that's great, but it's got to be a multi-pronged approach. Chemical engineering, yes, chemical engineering. But I actually, Henry, thank you for, it is chemical engineering. Yes, I knew it was in chemistry, but also I think her specialty is in sustainable energy, Henry. Being a chemical engineer, her specialty is in sustainable energy. My Wells Fargo is closing. They say for my protection, I don't have enough time to have my SSDI switched to a new bank account. I haven't figured out a solution. Oh, geez, Robert. That one's a hard one because I'm not too familiar with the SSDI and how it works. And I don't know if, well, I know the payment's going to get sent back to the Social Security Administration, but I don't know how maybe you can fix it. I'll tell you what, Robert, I don't know where you live in Mexico, but what I would do, and I'll give you, there's a, in one of my videos, there's a link. Some of the embassies, and here's the thing, they don't actually work for the Social Security Administration, but some of the embassies will service, like, for example, the closest one to me is Mexico City at the embassy. Some of the consulates, not the embassies. Some of the consulates will service Social Security. They have individuals that work for the State Department that are specially trained with Social Security, and those are the people that you can contact. And actually look up in the internet, Robert, look up receiving Social Security in Mexico, and it'll go take you to the Social Security page. And there's a foreign page in the Social Security Administration for people that live abroad, and actually they'll have a list in Mexico of which consulates service you. What I would do is probably go to the closest consulate or email them. I know, because sometimes they require appointments. Email them or call them and see if you can get an appointment to see if someone there at the embassy can help you get a hold of Social Security or your SSDI benefits people and get them to get your bank account changed. But I do know that instead of trying to get a hold of Social Security back in the United States, you can go through some consulates. I had the list. There's a video that I did, Robert, that talks about, can you get Social Security in a foreign country? There's some links there, and I believe one of the links is to the servicing offices for Social Security. I also believe I put those links in my video about receiving Social Security, and I also think I put those links in the video about the filing the form every year. There's a form you have to fill. I forgot the number of the form. Hey, jet lag, how's it going? Yes, is SSDI handled differently than Social Security? Yes, Mal, but I think SSDI is actually handled by the Social Security Administration. There is also a difference between SSDI and SSI. SSDI and SSI, there is a difference in the two, but it's actually the decisions are handled through the Social Security Administration. So, they might be able to help you. That's why I'm saying contact the local, do whatever you can to contact the the people in the United States, but try to contact your closest consulate and tell them what your problem is and see if they can help you. And hopefully they can help you. If not, get back payments for the following month as quickly as possible. And then also, you know what? NERD also has another. Many banks will let you open an account by transferring money from another bank via ACH. Yeah, and they will. I think Robert's problem is going to be that the direct depositor, the ACH, is going to try to go into his Wells Fargo account. And it's not going to go anywhere because the account's going to be closed. So that's where he's going to have to try to get it changed. But Wahoo Fan, she's a physicist with a doctorate in environmental engineering. Okay, Claudia Scheinbaum, she's of Jewish heritage. Yes, that is true. And like I said, I knew it was something in environmental or sustainable energy. I think she's a physicist, but she's also a chemist, if I'm not mistaken, Wahoo Fan. But part of that, especially in a lot of that sustainable and environmental engineering, my dad was a physical chemist, and a lot of that stuff has to do with physical chemistry. I don't know what her other education is because I don't know what she did her master's in, but I know that she is an intellectual. She's a PhD. And also her PhD specialty is in sustainable, environmental engineering and sustainable energy, and she's been a big proponent of it. I don't keep up with the politics. I don't keep up with right or left or right. I don't. All I know is what I've heard about her background, and I don't know how much she's gonna toe the party line. Normally, people toe the party line. I mean, that happens in the United States. You're either a Democrat or Republican, and that's a problem we're having right now. Nobody meets in the middle. And I don't know, to be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with the Morena's party line. So other than they're, I guess, people claim they're on the left, I don't really pay attention to all of that stuff. All I pay attention to, really, to be honest with you, is how it affects you living here in Mexico. All the immigration changes, that's what I look at. The safety concerns, all of that stuff. Jim Flom, how many active tips can one person have? Me, resident, temporary, husband, resident, permanente. We have planning a trip with our Monarch motor coach towing pickup. Titles are in both names. Okay, first of all, Jerry, the tips, first of all, you're the only one that's going to be able to get it. You're the one that has temporary residency. You're the only one that's going to be able to get the tip. Permanent residents can't get a tip. That's one of the things about being a permanent resident. Permanent residents and Mexican citizens cannot obtain a tip. Now, Mexican citizen can obtain a tip if they can prove they live outside the United States. Outside of Mexico and live in the United States. Usually it's with their permanent resident card. That's how Mexicans come back home from Texas or wherever, and they're driving foreign plated vehicles. But technically, a permanent resident and a citizen cannot drive. A permanent resident and a citizen cannot drive a foreign plated vehicle. Now, there is an exception. Your husband will be able to drive the vehicle while you're in the vehicle with him. Now, the motor coach is going to be a little bit different. The motor coach is going to be probably considered an RV. So you're going to get separate tips on the RV and then another one on the pickup. You need to check into that. The title will be in both names. What you need to do is make sure you bring your marriage certificate that shows that you both are married on the title, so that because technically they need to prove that if both of you are on the title, that the other person gives consent to basically get the tip. Now, I'm not too very familiar with the tips on the motor coaches and the RVs. The RV is a tip for up to 10 years, and I've seen people come across with, towing a car with the RV. So I don't know how Customs handles that. Actually, the one that might have some information on the RV stuff is there's a Mex Experience, and also SoniaDiazMexico.com. They both have a lot of good information. I've never dealt with the RV thing, but I do know that you can bring in like an RV with towing a motorcycle, and then the trailer, I think, gets a separate tip. It's a little bit of a different thing. So Jerry, you're the one that's going to have to get the temporary resident is going to have to get the tip. Now, here's the thing about your tip. For example, let's say you just got your temporary residency and you have it for 1 year. Your tip will expire with your temporary residency. So when you go to renew it, you need to renew your tip. You need to return the old one and get a new one. And if you already went through your first year and you have 3 years left, then your tip will be good for the 3 years. And I believe on a motorhome or an RV, it's up to 10 years. It's a different animal because I guess winter visitors and stuff, winter snowbirds and stuff like that come down to Mexico and they come in an RV. So it's handled a different way. And then there's also remember how I told you that these YouTubers could have possibly gotten classified as an RV? I think there's some things in there that basically there's a couple of things in there that are different. It has to be a certain tonnage and all of that stuff to be qualified as an RV. So, Robert, I'm planning to see my attorney if I can do it. I really appreciate your advice. I will look at this up. Yes, it's in process. I checked those videos. I live in Ensenada. Thank you. Yeah, Ensenada, I don't know if there's one I guess there's a consulate. I want to say in La Paz. or there might be one in Cabo. I'm not sure where the consulate is, but you just check that list to see if they have a Social Security. Because the problem with the consulate, not every consulate has a designated Social Security representative. What happens is the consulate, because Social Security can't put people in the consulates, or they don't have a contract with the State Department. I was assigned to the State Department myself, with my own agency, but the State Department had a position for me. What happens is the State Department will take up certain duties, or U.S. citizenship services, which is Social Security is one of them. What they do is they will send a consulate officer to special training with the Social Security Administration on how to process the paperwork, how to process someone didn't get their check, and everything else. Sort of like a Social Security employee will know if you go to the Social Security office. So what you do, the only problem also there is, depending on how much of the training they picked up or they know, or how many people they handle, maybe they went to training 5 years ago and they don't handle anybody, your mileage may vary. But they do have somebody, and because they can't put someone in every consulate, every country has a list. As a matter of fact, that list that I'm referring to you to, Robert, is actually a list for all the countries that have servicing offices, and what consulates they have servicing offices in. That's right. You still plan on getting the Mexican? Yep. Actually, I do, Michael. Believe it or not, I am still planning on getting my Mexican citizenship. I will be doing it probably next year, actually. I'm waiting till I'm 60 because I don't want to take the cultural and history exam. Unfortunately, it's very difficult. I know a couple of Mexican citizens who can't even pass it. But unfortunately, I'm going to be of the age to be able to become a Mexican citizen. And I'm going to do it for personal reasons. I know I've done videos about what you lose, because I always say when you're a Mexican citizen, you have to do everything as a Mexican citizen here. And actually, you can lose your citizenship if you do things like getting a tip, and you live outside the country for 5 years, you do any legal process under your U.S. passport, you can lose your citizenship here in Mexico. But they do recognize dual citizenship. If you're naturalized, you can lose it. Now, if you're born in Mexico, or you derived it through birth, your parents were Mexican citizens, they'll never take your citizenship away. But it's a lot easier here in Mexico to take your citizenship away for different reasons than it is in the United States. But I'm doing it for personal reasons. I don't plan on going back to the United States. I plan on staying here. And I just plan on doing it for the pride of living in Mexico, and being so proud that I live in Mexico, and proud of my roots, where I come from. Mexico is a place that I come from, and part of my heritage is here. And so I'm going to do it. But like I said, people do it for personal reasons. People do it for tax reasons, but I'm doing it for personal reasons. Hi, Robert. Wells Fargo should not be permitted to close your account without giving you time to transfer your SSDI payment. Call SSDI directly and ask them for help. Wishing you good luck. Yeah, like I said, Robert, when I tell you to get a hold of the consulate, don't just get a hold of the consulate. Get a hold of whoever you can. Nature lover, correct. I was a civil lawyer and I've been disabled for 10 years. Oh, okay, good. You're on good standing. You know who to get a hold of, Robert. But work both sides and see which one gets you the best. It seems like most of the political parties are going left and right, just like Republicans and Democrats in the U.S. They have formed alliances, so they're basically two parties now. Yeah, it is true. Actually, a candidate that's second in line was a candidate, and it's a female, that was put up by the PAN and the PRI. It was a cooperative alliance between the PAN and the PRI to try to beat the Morena. Unfortunately, she's not doing too good in the polls. I don't know anything about her. She came up out of nowhere, to be honest with you. Like I said, I don't get involved in politics because, I don't know, there's all sorts of rumors that so-and-so was involved in this and so-and-so was involved in that and so-and-so's corrupt, and I don't get involved in that stuff. That is also apostolized for the marriage license. Yes, actually, Gringos Russ, apostolized is better. And Mexico Relocation Guide is the answer. Yes, they have a lot of good information. when they say apostolized, it's better that you have it apostolized. We used to do it on our marriage certificate, my wife and I, but that was years ago. Things change. Always do more. That's what I always say. Come up with more paper. If they ask you for 6 months of bank statements, come up with 12. And usually you're better off, because sometimes or they don't ask you for a piece of document, like, as a matter of fact, we're going back to Texas pretty soon to get my wife's Mexican passport and do it over there, because it's harder to do over here. And they have a list of requirements of what to bring. And I told her, no, bring everything. Bring your birth certificate, bring your marriage certificate, we're going to take everything we can, so that they don't give us a chance to say, you're missing this, or you're missing that, or you have to go back and get this. So that's one thing about Mexican bureaucracy. You have to overwhelm them with paperwork, because they're going to find something that you don't have. And trust me, they'll follow it to a T. If they say you need a copy of your left fingerprint, then make a copy of your left fingerprint. That's how specific they get. Actually, Jerry, it doesn't need to be translated as far as getting the tip. It does. I would get it apostolized, because the reason why I say apostolized is because it is official. Also, make sure that the names on your passport match the names on your marriage certificate. That's another thing that also gets people hung up. The problem here in Mexico is people don't use, in the United States, when you get married, you use a different name, okay? And now, what happens, you're probably going to have your maiden name on the marriage certificate and everything else, but you need to show that you're married, and then you took his name. So you probably change your Social Security card and all that stuff. I would take copies even of your Social Security card. The problem with names here in Mexico is, like, for example, I'm married. My wife uses, here in Mexico, when your name at birth is your name that they use for everything legal. Even if you get married, you don't change your name. And actually, even to change your name is very hard. Usually, when you have your name in Mexico, you have your first name. Some people have middle names. And then the last name of your father goes first. And the name is hyphenated. And the last name of your mother goes second. So, for example, in Mexico, my name might be Juan Gomez Perez, but in the United States, my name's Juan Gomez, because I only use my dad's last name, right? The problem is when you have documents that say Juan Gomez and Juan Gomez Perez, they're going to say you're not the same person. This happens a lot with all sorts of paperwork in Mexico. Just make sure that and they understand that your name's going to change or whatever, but make sure that everything is good. Let me see here. Tom, if we use a service like traveling mailbacks as our permanent mailing, can we still vote in the U.S.? Yes, you can. Actually, you can get your voting. I don't know exactly how, but through the embassy, you can actually do your early voting and all of that stuff. And Gringos R Us, yes, we will be voting this year. And Robert, yes, if a Mexican citizen marries me, it will solve my banking issue. I am looking. Oh, well, Robert, hopefully you get your issue resolved. And pretty much you are a civil lawyer, so you pretty much know how to navigate on the U.S. side. But like I said, try your best to navigate on the Mexican side. What I mean by the Mexican side is that through the consulate, your closest consulate. If you're in Ensenada, I don't know which is going to be the closest consulate, because I don't have the list up right now. Translated and certified equals apostle. Yeah, actually, Gringos, we have gotten a couple, like, for example, when we had to submit our marriage certificate when we registered our marriage here, it did need to be translated. Here's the thing that I do advise with that Gringos R Us has done. I've already told everybody they're super, super prepared. And like I said, Being over-prepared is even better than being prepared. Being over-prepared is the best thing you can do here in Mexico when you're moving here to Mexico. And like I said, just because I didn't need a translated certificate doesn't mean you're going to get a customs official there that's going to say, why isn't this translated? I would, to be honest with you, spend the extra money to get it officially translated and get it apostolized. And that way there's no questions whatsoever. And Gringos or Us is very good. Like I said, they're over-prepared. And trust me, it's gotten them out. And they can tell you right now, Gina and Mark, am I right or wrong that being over-prepared has gotten you out of a lot of issues being here in Mexico? Actually, one of the issues, they were so prepared, I helped them cross the border. And one of the issues was they took me with them, and I was translating for them. And one of the issues is the immigration guy didn't want to let them in because he kept saying that it was 30 days after their visa, and I had to tell him, no, it's 180. So being over-prepared always helps. And that's the biggest mistake on these YouTubers is they were not even prepared. So please, like I said, it's always a Robert. Hope we're all invited to the wedding. Yep. Hopefully we'll see what we can do. We'll go over to the wedding. Talk about the process once a day. I'm fairly lucky I got from both my parents. In the process of trying to obtain Spanish citizenship, I have family in Zaragoza. Yes, Michael, I'll let everybody know how it went. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna be pretty proud when I get to show off my Mexican passport. Malarkey, trying to get my kids to get their citizenship. Their dad is Mexican. Mal, actually, you should. I don't know if you still live in the United States, but you can do it through the consulate. All you need is the birth certificate, and you can actually do it through the consulates there, or you can do it here. It's not that you, but I'm saying they will actually issue a passport to your kids, through giving them the Mexican citizenship, and they'll also get what they call a matricula consular, which is basically an ID saying they're a Mexican citizen. But it's a very good thing to have. Trust me. The only thing that is not so good is you don't get a lot of consulate protection or embassy protection because in Mexico considers you a Mexican citizen. The minute you step on this soil, whether you're naturalized or you're Mexican, Mexico considers you a Mexican citizen. They do recognize people have dual citizenship, but they say once you're in Mexico, you're a Mexican. You're not an American, you're not a European, you're not a Canadian, you're a Mexican because you're a Mexican citizen. So unfortunately, you don't get consulate protection, a lot of those things. But even then, watch this video. The embassy didn't even help these people out because they told them it wasn't an emergency. The consulate protection is really important when you get arrested. That's where it really helps. But even then, they can't do much for you other than make sure that you're being treated well. Tom, Ernie, tú puedes pasar el examen de la historia y el idioma de Mexicano, México sin problema. So yeah, Tom, I don't know about the cultural and history exam, but I do know how to read and write Spanish, and I do speak Spanish. A little bit broken because, like I said, I grew up in the United States. I didn't practice it much. I probably have gotten a lot better since I've gotten here. I did Mexican citizenship. Woohoo! Thanks, Robert. John Garcia, love it. Michael Werito, Mel Larkey, I wish you luck. Process isn't too difficult. I'll tell you what, Mal, the only process, make sure you have, you're going to need your husband's birth certificate. And here's the issue with birth certificates and all of that stuff. Try to get the most recent one, or their dad. Maybe it's not their husband, but their dad. I'm sorry, I don't know your marital situation. But make sure you get their dad's birth certificate. If you can, a most recent one. Sometimes here's a problem in Mexico. What happens now with copies of birth certificates is that is that you have to have one that, even if it's a copy, it has to be less than 6 months old or a year old. I don't know for the birth certificate if it's good, but just get a more updated copy of the birth certificate, and then your children's birth certificate in the United States, and make sure all the names match. That's one of the things that you got to make sure, that your name matches your husband's name on the marriage, on the birth certificate. Your name matches and your husband's name matches his birth certificate. Unfortunately, sometimes your husband might have gotten, or not husband, I'm sorry, your children's dad. I assume things, and I shouldn't assume anything. There's a famous saying that I'm not going to say right now, but I shouldn't assume. But your parents' dad, your children's dad, should still have put his whole name there with the father and the mother, the paternal last name. Most Mexicans will do that. So what I would do is make sure that matches. Rich Garcia, I converted U.S. dollars to pesos for a condo. The deal fell through. I put it in a SETA. Will I need to do an FBAR? Should I be careful? Actually, it depends how much you have in the SETA, the CETA. The reason why I say that, Robert, is there's different reporting requirements than the FBAR. There's the FACTA reporting requirements. There's the FACTA reporting requirements, because if you have an investment, see, the SETA, the CETA is kind of like a certificate of deposit. It's an investment. Your investment accounts, I want to say, I did it on the last FACTA. You know, my head is going at 100 miles an hour, and I'm 58 years old now, so I don't remember the exact amount. If it's more than, I think it's $300,000, you have to report it under FACTA, and FACTA is a different reporting requirement than the FBAR. What I would do, Rich, get a hold of, a good attorney that knows the FACTA reporting requirements and the FBAR reporting requirements, and see which one you fall under, because you may fall under the actual FACTA reporting requirements. That's with investments over a certain amount. So if you, let's say your condo was $350,000 and you put it in that CD, then what will happen is that CD will be considered an investment that needs to be reported under FACTA. Let's say that condo was only $150,000, or you sent the deposit of $100,000. Then you may not have to fill out the FACTA requirements. And then also an FBAR is not really a foreign bank account. And here's the thing that I tell people, Rich, even if you don't have to fill it out, or someone tells you, nah, you don't have to, I fill it out anyway. Like I tell people, the FBAR is nothing. It's not gonna set off a tax audit. The worst mistake you can do with an FBAR is not file it. If you file a FBAR and say, here's my account, here's my bank, and, you know, I don't know how much I had, you know, and actually there's even a box to say, I don't know how much the maximum amount was, because I had money coming in and out of my account. And actually, I'm even thinking about filing FBARs even when I don't have more than $10,000 in my account, because it's a really easy process. You do it online. And thank you guys for all the super chats tonight. I don't know if I'm doing something right or what, but like I said, thank you. I really, you know, these super chats and everything else, for me, it's not a big, it's more the flattery that knowing that I'm doing my job. And Michael Guerrero, convincing them that it would be a benefit is the hard part. Yeah, it is the hard part. I know a lot of kids are like, no, I'm from the United States. I'm American. I know this generation. It's hard, Mal. But and thank you for that. I think it was you sent a super chat too. But yeah, it is. And okay, Gringos Us, this is a great thing. When you request an apostle, they want to know the country so that it is in the native language for your country. That is how ours worked out anyway. Actually, yeah, check to see that. When we did the apostle, the problem was we had to send it to Austin. and I don't know, the state apostolized it, and we just received the same document back with a bunch of stamps on it. They didn't even ask us. But actually, if you want to tell who you did it with, because I know there's services that'll do it, and there's probably services that'll do it in Spanish too. And it's probably your best bet. And Malarkey, that's hilarious. Our parents passed it to us when we were in our teens. They saw the benefit of having dual citizenship, and more Americans are living abroad. Yeah, and it is. And the other thing too is coming back and forth is a lot easier too. You don't have to get a tourist permit. You don't have to check out when you leave and check out when you come in. So, yep, exactly. Load for a bear and hunt for a squirrel. It's perfect advice. Load for the bear, have all that documentation, have extra stuff, be prepared for the bear, and if a squirrel comes along and you have to hunt the squirrel, you hunt the squirrel. But be prepared for the bear. That's the best advice I've heard. Actually, the best antidote I've heard tonight. Someone's looking for a second. Oh, they're looking for a second passport. Yeah, a lot of people are looking for a second passport right now. I actually read an article about many people, many Americans looking for a second passport because of, I guess, what they think is stability in the United States. I'm not into politics over there. I don't really keep up, to be honest with you. I couldn't even tell you. Right now, all I know is that I think Trump is going to run against Biden and all of the stuff. I see news, but I don't really read it. I don't get involved in that. But I did read an article that a lot of people are looking for second passports, looking for a plan B, what they call it. Tom M., the years I lived in Puerto Rico, being a Commonwealth, I was able to vote for the president of the USA. I'm sure when I start living in Mexico, it won't bother me like living free. Yeah, and actually Puerto Rico's actually I'm half Puerto Rican, so Puerto Rico's a different animal. It's kind of weird. They don't have congressional representation being a Commonwealth, but they can vote for the president. It's kind of the Virgin Islands is the same. Hawaii was a Commonwealth for a while before it became a state. Funny story, when I got married to my first husband in Mexico, the U.S. courthouse made me take both of his last names. Crazy racist clerk for sure. Yeah. Hopefully, like I said, as long as those names match, that is weird. Actually, when my wife got married, because my wife took my last name when we were in the U.S., but back in the U.S., she's known with my last name. But here, all of her stuff is done with her ID, her Mexican ID, which actually has her maiden name, her full maiden name, with the name of her father first. Her first part of her last name is her father, and the second part of her last name is her mother. And even times I've gone to the doctor, they'll ask me, "What's your second last name?" And even though I'm not officially my second last name is Diaz on the side of my mother, and even though I sometimes will say Baca Diaz, just out of habit, but they use the both last names, so just make sure all those names match. And actually, maybe that clerk did you. Well, I'm not sure. You said your first when you got married to your first husband. If you would have gotten your I guess kids, and you had changed your passport and everything with the both last names, then you might have been, the names would have matched for sure. So they might have done you a favor, but maybe they didn't. I don't know. But just make sure that your kid's dad has that it matches on the birth certificates. Actually, I just consulted somebody. Well, they got married. Their marriage certificate. The girl's a Mexican citizen, and she had to go back to the courthouse, and they're changing her last name on the original marriage certificate so that they don't have to go through this whole I'm going to prove I am who I am. but I do know that it can be done sometimes. It can be changed legally. You might have to go through a court process to change the last name of your kids to, no, not kids, but on their birth certificate to reflect the correct name, or there might be a way of doing it depending what state or city you're in, if you need to. But if they already have it that way, then not a problem. It's an easy process, Tom. There's a form that you fill out online, and then they will send you the absentee ballot. Yeah, I believe they'll send you the absentee, and you're actually doing it through the U.S. Embassy, I believe. Actually, Gringos R Us, if you could give the link of where they can go to. Laura, welcome, Laura. Laura, Laura in Spanish. El Paso, Texas, Mexican consulate was very easy to navigate in getting my passport. They even printed out my digitized birth certificate. I was able to get a 10-year passport. Their website is very clear. Yeah, we're going to deal with Brownsville. Their website's pretty clear, and I don't think we're going to have any issues. We have friends that have already done that. They had to actually reclaim their citizenship because before 1997, if you naturalized, you lost your citizenship. And then after 1997, they passed a law that said even if you naturalized, you didn't lose your citizenship, and people had to go back and get it. Or a visa, for example, to come, or a residency visa. And so that's one of the things that you need to make sure is that you do that for Mexican Citizenship Services. They'll usually get you in quicker, and also you're the priority. So, and actually there is a national, believe it or not, a website. My wife and I tried to go to the website. The only thing is you have to pay like, I don't know, 50 pesos or something like that to get a copy. And it's a certified copy over the internet, and it's a national database. The only problem is some of these little towns, if she was born in a little town, they don't have it in the national database, but my wife was born in Monterrey, so she was able to pull it up with her CORP and everything else. And we went to pay, and the website says, sorry, too bad, so sad, error. Sometimes those websites can't, so we're just going to go, actually we're going to be in Monterrey. We can just go to the closest Registro Civil, and we're just going to grab the birth certificate. Jerry Flum, I keep my maiden name to the family's charging. LOL. Well, Jerry, actually, if you kept your maiden name and that's your name on the birth, your passport, and as far as you're getting your tip, it's the same name that's on the registration, you're not going to have a problem. All I would do is just get that marriage certificate apostolized and translated. Robert, I vote in the U.S. Yeah, I know a lot of people go back to the U.S. and vote in their district, wherever they have a permanent address. Have U.S. stamps. You will need them to vote. I took my ballot to the consulate, and they courier them to the U.S. and then throw them in a mailbox. Oh, wow, I didn't know that, Denise. I know that it's through the consulate, and it's an absentee ballot, but I didn't know that. So you're going to have to. You apply to the Secretary of State that has your traveling mailbox address, and you are golden. Okay. Yeah, and you guys did that actually in South Dakota or whatever. Gringos R Us did that. Spanish citizenship paperwork is more bureaucratic. Yeah, it is, Michael, but actually if you're a citizen by birth, it's a little bit easier. I know that because I know my brother-in-law has gotten it for his kids. And actually it was a little bit easier. But here's the problem with the bureaucracy in Mexico is that when it gets bureaucratic, it gets very bureaucratic. So you might have a great, just like Laura was saying, or Laura was saying, I got mine. I had it easy at the El Paso consulate. We might have issues, to be honest with you, there in Brownsville. Oh, wow, Ramon, you just got back to San Francisco, starting to plan our next minivan Mexico adventure tour. I had a great time and learned a lot to make my next adventure even better. That's great to hear, Ramon. It was great to see you here in San Miguel and meet with you. And we had a great breakfast. And actually, I hope you enjoyed the eclipse, Ramon, because I know you were going to Mazatlan, and that was one of the places that was very famous for the full. So I hope you got that full experience, Ramon. That's right. Apart from the passport, I also you have a matricula consular, and actually the matricula consular takes the place of the INE. INE is basically your voter card, and when you come here to Mexico, you get your INE, and because you can't get your INE over there from the consulate, I think you can, or I'm not sure if you can. They issue this Mexican ID, because when you come to Mexico, your INE is kind of like your voter ID is kind of like your official ID. And so usually they'll ask you for your INE, and that's why they give you a matricula consular, so you can use that as your ID until you get your INE. That's the downside. However, that applies to most people whom attain citizenship. It happens in every country. If you have British passport but have American passport, yes, it does. It does. If arriving in the UK, exactly. If arriving in the UK, you're a citizen of the UK by law. As a matter of fact, we were just discussing that. This is why we're going to go out and get my wife's passport. We're planning on taking a trip to Europe. We're flying out. I don't have a problem because I fly out on my American passport and my residency card. I check out with immigration. I'm leaving. I'm going to Europe. When I come back, I check in with immigration under my U.S. passport and my resident card, right? My wife, she happens to be a dual citizen. So when she checks into Mexico, she can leave and she could check into Europe as a U.S. citizen or a Mexican citizen if she has her Mexican passport by then. But coming back, how does she check back into Mexico? She can't check in as a U.S. citizen. She can't use her U.S. passport because then she'll be asking for a tourist permit. Why do you need a tourist permit if you're a Mexican citizen? Previous to this, she used to work for a government agency with security clearances. Her answer was always, I had to renounce my citizenship, blah, blah, blah. Even though you never lose it, that was the answer because she renounced her citizenship officially until she left the government. But she was still a Mexican citizen no matter what. So she still had to enter Mexico as a U.S. citizen because if she entered Mexico as a Mexican citizen, she was violating U.S. law. So now that she's no longer working for the government, Mexico still sees you as a Mexican citizen and you have to do legal processes. And my wife had a legal reason to come in as a U.S. citizen, but she doesn't have a legal right now because she no longer works for the government. She no longer renounced it. She no longer has a security clearance. So she does not have that excuse anymore to not come in as a Mexican. That's why we need to go get her passport, believe it or not. That's why. And that's what you're saying. If you're arriving in the UK, you're a citizen of the UK by law. You have to show the UK authorities. Yes, and that's true in most countries. You converted USD pesos to buy a condo. The deal fell through. I put all of it into short-term CD. Yes. Do I need an FBAR? And Rich, that's what I was telling you. It all depends because the short-term CD, I don't know if it's considered an investment because you're putting it away for a while as an investment. Depending on if it's an investment, you have to fill out a FACTA reporting requirements, and FACTA reporting requirements are different than an FBAR. If it's considered a bank account or if you have less than a certain amount of money in it, if you don't meet the threshold for FACTA, okay, and I don't know how much money you sent over and converted to pesos, if you don't meet FACTA, you're going to need, and here's the thing, a CD is considered an investment account. So, but what I would do, Rich, is even if you meet the FACTA requirements and fill out the FACTA form, I would still fill out the FBAR. If it's over $10,000, still fill it out. It's an online form. It doesn't take you more than 5 minutes to fill it out. They send you a confirmation. And here's why I tell you this, Rich, is fill out the FBAR but still, you need to check into the FACTA requirements. If it's over, I think it's $300,000. If it's more than $300,000, you need to check into the FACTA requirements because you may have additional reporting requirements. Here's the thing about the FBAR. You don't want to get a notice from the IRS saying, you had a bank account for more than $10,000. We're finding you $10,000 now. Send us the $10,000. The hassle of you having to try to go through and say, it's not a bank account, it's a CD, it's an investment, all of that, 5 minutes of filling out the FBAR is going to save you a ton of headaches if the IRS ever comes back on you and says it's a bank account. And that has happened to some people. Actually, I know a tax lawyer that defends people on these types of things. And he actually had to go and he actually had, I think, a motorcycle that was under a trust, and they tried to say the trust was a bank account, and they tried to fine this guy a bunch of money because he hadn't done it for 5 or 6 years, and this attorney had to defend him against the IRS. And unfortunately, it cost the client a lot of money, and it cost them a lot of time and a pain in the rear. So I would fill out the FBAR regardless. But what I would do too, Rich, is check into the FACTA requirements to make sure if it's not under the FACTA, if it's under the FACTA requirements, if it was just like $150,000 or whatever it might be, make sure that you, if it's under and you don't have to fill out the FACTA, that's fine, that's great. But fill one out. Like I said, the FBAR goes to file 13. Unless you're under investigation for something, or I don't know, maybe if you're laundering money, you don't want to fill out an FBAR because you're trying to hide the money. But it goes into file 3, it goes into a database. And basically this database is to make sure that people aren't hiding money. And if you're not doing anything wrong, you transfer the money, you know where the money came from, and they know where you went from a U.S. bank to a Mexican bank. You pay taxes in the United States. You probably pay taxes on that money. There's not going to be any questions. So really, you're not going to be under investigation for anything. But if you fill out the FBAR, you guarantee you're not going to be harassed by the IRS. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you don't fill out the FBAR, well, if the IRS comes back and tries to say, well, a CD is really a bank account, and that's why I tell people the dollar app. Be careful. Be careful with this dollar app, because at any minute, the IRS can consider the dollar app a banking platform and actually say you need to fill out an FBAR. And that's the fact. I'm not lying. I'm not trying to trick anybody. I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm not trying to, no, I'm telling you that's a fact. And if at any point the IRS says the dollar app is a bank account or acting like a bank account, you need to fill out an FBAR. When you're going to get a $10,000 fine, is exactly what I told with these YouTubers that got in all of this trouble. You're not going to have an excuse to say I didn't fill out an FBAR. And that's why I say, Rich, fill it out. Fill it out regardless. Like I said, it doesn't take any time to do it. And even if when I ask for the account number, put your CD number. You probably have an account number there with BBVA. I think you said it was BBVA. So fill it out. I tell people, fill it. You know what? Even this lawyer told me, fill it out. Even if your account never reached 10, or you don't even remember if it reached $10,000. Let's say it reached $9,000. Fill it out anyway. Fill it out anyway. Because how is the IRS going to come after you if you didn't, for not filling out a form, even though you weren't supposed to fill it out? They're not going to do that. Mal, thank you for clearing that. He's my ex. Do you think I could get his birth certificate if I go to the town he was born in? I'm in Mexico. They are not. Actually, Mal, here's what you might want to do. Is there's a website where you can get your birth, that if he's in the national registry, if he's willing to give you his CURP number and his INE, there should be a Mexican ID number, the INE number, or the Matrícula Consular number. You can go to the website. It's a national website. Just look up birth certificates in Spanish, birth certificate Mexico in Spanish. Do it in Spanish with Google Translate. And there's a website for, I believe it's Exterior Relations that has that website where you can go and get your birth certificate. That's the website that my wife went to, and we were able to, with the CURB number. Now, if you go to the town he was born in and you're in Mexico, you're still going to need all of his information. And maybe even a letter from him saying, like I said, bureaucracy here, maybe they might not ask you. You just give the information and they say, here's the copy. Or they might ask you, let me see your ID. Well, you're not this person. Present a letter. Have him notarize a letter, even if it's notarized in the United States, and that you have permission to pull his information. But you can't get it if it's a small town. You got to be careful, because I do know somebody that was one of my viewers is having a hard time because their father passed away. The little town didn't keep good records, and they're having a hard time finding it. But if he was born in a bigger city, like my wife was born in '73, her stuff is in the national birth certificates. Any recommendation for lawyers or consultants in Puerto Vallarta area in regards to immigration and or fideicomiso for property here? Lawyers, in regards to immigration, Sonia Diaz, if you go to her website, she has a satellite office. It's soniadiazmexico.com, I believe. Just look up Sonia Diaz. Sonia Diaz Mexico. It's SONIA Diaz Mexico. And she has a satellite office in Puerto Vallarta. I don't think they do fideicomisos, but they do facilitator. She has a facilitator there in Puerto Vallarta that does all these processes. They've done thousands of processes, so they're probably the best, I would say, in Puerto Vallarta. Contact that immigration facilitator probably to do your immigration stuff, and then ask them who would be a good attorney to do the fideicomiso. If you're going to buy something close to the beach, a lot of times the notario will take care of that. But, I haven't bought anything close to the beach, but many of the times what I've dealt with was the notario. I had to get you have to get a special permission from SRE. It doesn't take very long, but it takes a couple of weeks. They send it to Mexico City, and then they send you back this, oh, yes, you have permission to purchase property. And the notario took care of all of that. I don't know if the notario will take care of the fideicomiso also, but ask the facilitator, because they live there. They know everything about Puerto Vallarta. This person's she's a local, if I'm not mistaken. And also, I don't know about the facilitator that Sonia has, and I don't think Sonia is a lawyer, but she's a good facilitator. But I'm not sure if the person she has in Puerto Vallarta is a facilitator or not. I mean, an immigration lawyer. So maybe she might be able to help you out. I don't know. But get a hold of. Just look for Sonia Diaz Mexico. Also, her and her husband run a group called. There's several groups called Expats in Mexico, but they run one. The biggest one that you find with hundreds of thousands of users, her husband and her run that. Join that Facebook group and ask, and they'll give you the contact information. I don't have her contact information handy with me, but I know through SoniaDiaz.org, not SoniaDiazMexico.com, you can get that information. Just as a super chat, $10. Thank you, Jesse. I am an older trans person, going to retire soon from an integration standpoint, making friends, safety. Would you recommend either Ajijic or Merida? Finding a tribe is high priority. Jesse, let me tell you something. Someone has already contacted me regarding that. I'm not too familiar with the excuse me if I get it wrong, the LGBTQ, and I know my son has told me that there's like 3 other acronyms that go on to plus. I think people put plus, but there is many LGBTQ communities here in Mexico. We happen to have some real good friends that are in that community in Monterrey. They're not in the communities in Ajijic or Merida. But one of the things that I'm planning to do, and I'm really researching on this because I know within the LGBTQ community, there's, well, of course, it's called LGBTQ because it's different types of people. I know that some people tend to group that whole community together, but I know that within that community, there's divisions, just like there is in the expat community. I'm from Canada. No, I'm from the United States. No, I'm L. No, I'm G. No, I'm B. No, I'm Q. No, I'm T. And I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction, Jesse, and tell you, I really want to make sure I have the accurate information about the different communities. I know that same-sex couples here have to get married in Mexico City. There's a couple of caveats to the LGBTQ community here, and I'm really looking into it. I apologize to that person for not getting back to them on the email. I get a bunch of emails, and sometimes when I don't get back to you is because I'm researching. Other times it's because I'm so busy with my personal life. Like I said, I don't do a video every week. Sometimes you don't see a video from me for 2 weeks or 3 weeks because I'm more tied up in my personal life. I try to keep this going every week so I can keep my contact with my audience. But I want to get a better idea of the LGBTQ communities. And actually, thank you for asking me of Merida and Ajijic. I will actually ask my friends. One of them has even volunteered to even be interviewed. Is good friends of my sister-in-law. So I would consider good friends of the family. So he is even brave enough to come out and be interviewed and talk about the LGBTQ community here in Mexico and what challenges they face and that kind of thing. The only thing is I need to get back to Monterrey because that's 2 weeks from now. And I'd rather interview him in person than online. And he's also happens to be the executive for a large company there in Mexico. And I don't know what his schedule looks like, to be honest with you. So I really am looking, Jesse, and look out for the video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the super chat. And for that person that reached out to me via email, it's the same question you asked, Jesse. Sort of the same question, along the same lines. I do know, here's the problem that I see on YouTube. There are a couple of LGBTQ YouTubers that are in that community. But what I've noticed is they're same-sex couples. They don't have a unique situation of being trans or they only give the perspective from same-sex couples. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a video for the whole community, not just same-sex couples, because two women being married or two males being married might be different than being trans here. Or it might be different than being, my son was telling me there's one now that's an A, where you're asexual, where you don't have any interest either one. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of differences within that community. And I really would like to do a video because nobody's really touched on this issue. And it's an important issue, especially for people that want to retire like you and want to come down here and be in peace. It's an important issue and where you can find your tribe. And I'm really trying, Jesse. I just want to let everybody know and anybody, and I have had those questions. I've had a couple of people ask me about Mexico City, if it's LGBTQ friendly. I know Mexico City is one of the more liberal areas in Mexico. The problem in Mexico is there are certain areas that are very conservative, I can tell you. And so they might not be as accepting, but there's other areas that are more accepting. But like I said, I have to really research this. And because I don't have a niche into that community, I do have contacts into that community. I really do want to present an accurate picture for those of you that really want to move down here that are in these types of situations. So I am trying to address that, Jesse. Just be patient with me, please. I'm at almost 101. Teresa Sanchez. She is affiliated with Sonia Diaz. Yeah. Okay, Teresa Sanchez. Yes, that she's affiliated with. She's the one that Sonia Diaz uses in Puerto Vallarta. Sonia Diaz has a satellite office, I believe, in Nayarit, Puerto Vallarta, and also she operates out of San Miguel. Thanks, Mal, for Teresa's contact info. And this is what I love about this community. We help each other out. I didn't even know her name. I see Sonia Diaz's advertisements all the time with Teresa Sanchez's contact info. And actually, I follow Sonia Diaz. She has a public profile, not a friend request thing. It's a public profile where she actually posts a lot of things every day about different things. And, we just got another subscriber. Thank you. Just subscribe to her. I think her contact information, Sonia always gives it out at least twice or 3 times a week. So, yes, FACTA, Foreign Tax Compliant Act. That's what it is. I actually did a video on FACTA. Now, when you start getting into FACTA reporting requirements, that's when I tell people get a tax lawyer, because that's going to be your best bet. They'll be able to thanks. You're welcome, Rich. But like I said, just fill out the FBAR regardless, but talks to a tax lawyer about the FACTA requirements and explain to them exactly what you have and find out if you have to file or not. But I would fill out the FBAR regardless. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you. And it doesn't, trust me, you're not going to get audited by the IRS. If you get audited by the IRS, it's for another reason. It's not because of the FBAR. The only thing that can happen is if you don't file it. It's worse. And I know plenty of people. I just had lunch not too long ago with somebody that didn't know that they had to file an FBAR. And right now they're going to go back and actually they're going to go back and file retroactively their FBARs because they didn't know. And you're going to use a lawyer to say, hey, IRS, we're sorry, and give us a break. And usually the IRS will let you do the backdating, but you need a lawyer. So file the FBAR. It's nothing. Oh, Jesse, thank you very much. Mel, thank you. Jesse Fraley at You Will Love Ajijic, very LGBTQ friendly. Thank you, Mal. Now, I will note that I'm still going to do that video on the LGBTQ community, what to expect in Mexico, because I still think that this issue hasn't really been addressed. And even though there was a Café con Leche, I think they left Mexico. I forgot the other couple's name. They do a lot of videos. They've come out on the Mexico Relocation Guide, I believe. But nobody's ever really touched on this issue. It's kind of an unspoken issue. And I do know that there is a place, we went to a beach here in Mexico that's very LGBTQ friendly. But regular tourists go there, European tourists go there, and everything else. But I hate to be inaccurate, especially, and I think we need to address this issue, especially with people that want to move to Mexico. And I don't think there's a single YouTuber that really addressed the issue. Even the same-sex couples, yes, they say they're same-sex couples, but they don't really address the issue of how it is. Maybe some have. I haven't really watched a lot of. I don't really get to watch a lot of YouTube channels, to be honest with you. Robert, I have some trans friends from the USA who are very happy in Merida. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And actually, Jesse, I hope you're getting a feel. But like I said, I'm still going to address it. Yes, Denise, do an FBAR for my accounts regardless, even on my Wise account. Yeah, if you hold any money in your Wise account, because there's a way of holding money in the Wise account and waiting till the exchange rate, do an FBAR. If you do the dollar app and you ever had more than $10,000 or you put $10,000 so you can have a $10,000 credit limit on their credit card, do an FBAR. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't kill you. I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't want people to have my personal information. Trust me, nobody looks at it. Even FinCEN doesn't look at it. It goes into a database. I'm telling you right now, I was a liaison to FinCEN, and I can be the first one to tell you that it goes nowhere. Okay? So it only goes into somewhere is if you're actually doing something illegal and someone's looking at you, then, well, guess what? I can find out that when I was working, I could find out that you had a foreign bank account. And a lot of times it was just a reference for investigations. Mal, unlikely that you get your ex's birth certificate unless you passed away and the request is in the next kin. Yeah, that's also a little bit of a, like I said, the website, if you have all the personal information, if it is not a small town, you can get it, but you have to have all of his information because you're not going to be able to pull up the birth certificate without it. And that's the security because that if you have his information, then he gave you consent to get the birth certificate. And I believe it's you're going to need everything, the INE, the CURB, the RFC, the whole 9 yards to get it online. And to get it, I don't know what you might want to find out what the town requires. The problem with this is that every registro civil is different. So if it's not in the national registry, then you have to go to the town. One registry might not even have a record of his birth certificate. He was born before a certain date. Others, they're going to have to look through physical files, depending on how small these towns are. Others, like I said, I have a viewer that's been looking for her dad's birth certificate for the longest time. They can't even find it. The local government can't. Others will probably give you a copy with no problem. Others will say, I need everything. What you need, Mal, the best thing is to make sure that you get everything in line, any kind of permission you need or whatever. You may have to have them physically show up. And then that's another issue that Gringos R Us put up about the birth certificate. It's also very hard when a person's deceased to get their birth certificate. That's the other issue that this individual's having. I think they found it, but they're having a hard time getting the copy because their father's passed away. So it's kind of hard, and they can't even find the physical copy of a birth certificate. At Malarkey, planning the trip later on this year. Yeah, Jesse, what I would do too, Jesse, is get I would wait till after July. Right now it's probably pretty hot in Nahihic. Yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe he'll have to make it a trip south. Probably, Mal, to be honest with you, like I said, it's I hate to say this, I guess I don't cuss much online, but I cuss a lot probably offline, but it's a crapshoot. And you're better off with all the permissions and everything else, and you're better off having him go down there. Actually, they got theirs apostolized, Gringos R Us, apostolized in Nevada, and our birth certificates were in Pennsylvania and Virginia. All three asked for the country. All three came back in Spanish, stamped with originals. Yeah, I did it through the state government in Austin. Was this actually Gringos R Us? If you could just reply if it was an actual service that you went through in Las Vegas. I know there's a lot of services that do that. And Mal, I like heat. My favorite temperature is 90 degrees, but hundreds, I'm looking for a dipping pool. Yeah, actually, Merida gets very, very hot. You're talking about above the hundreds, and it's very humid. That's the other thing, too. Well, actually, you might want to come out during the summertime to see what it's like, because that's another issue in Merida, because it does get very hot. Tom, not for nothing, but when I did my Residente Permanente 2 years ago in Chapala, they did not ask me for photos infantiles, small passport photos, etc. A lot of those things are required now. Actually, Tom, some offices don't require them anymore because actually they upgraded the immigration system now to take photos for your residency card. So now when you go in to sign, and even when you sign, when I went in, I had to take those little photos, and I also had to sign a piece of paper. And then I don't know, somehow they transferred the signature from the piece of paper onto my residency card the first time. When I did my permanent residency, the systems in Monterrey were already upgraded. You walk out with your residency card the same day. Some will require those photos, those small photos, to put in the file, not to put in the physical file. But a lot of them don't anymore because it's all computerized now. So thanks for the deal. Oh, and actually, Rich, you said 125,000. I'm sorry, I missed that one. It was about 125K. I don't think you're going to meet the factor requirements, but just make sure and file out the FBAR. That's your best bet. Yes, Ernie, I am that old. LOL. Ask gringos or us. They will swear that I am only 50 something. Well, you know what? Time I'll side with gringos or us. You're not old. I don't know you personally. I haven't met you, but you're not that old. Don't worry. I don't care how old you are. I'm gonna side with gringos or us. I'm gonna take their And you know what? Gringos or us says Tom is a baby. I can't. I'm not gonna argue. Not gonna argue. That's interesting. I know Spanish citizen once obtained, if you live abroad out of Spain for more than 5 years, you have to go back to Spain to preserve your. And actually, that's the same for Mexico too, Michael. That's the same for Mexico. If you leave for more than 5 years, you lose your citizenship. Oh, Tom says, you meant to say Tom is a babe. Well, if she meant Tom is a babe, then I'm going to have to agree. I don't know. I don't know you, but I'm not gonna argue that one. Actually, nerd, they can't vote in congressional elections because they don't have any representation, but they can vote for the president. Actually, in federal elections, they can in Puerto Rico. But they don't get any representation, just like D.C. And actually, Puerto Rico, I know because my parents were from Puerto Rico. But you can vote on the national elections, but you cannot vote for any kind of congressmen or senators. They don't have any congressmen or senators or any. And Gringos or Us says Wapo. I'll have to. You know what? Like I said, I'll have to trust Gringos or Us. And Rich Garcia, Ana Leiva, that helped me in Puerto Vallarta, will with all my immigration stuff, and Pido Camiso, misspelled her name. Someone was asking. Yes, Leiva, I don't know Ana Leiva, if she can help. I know that, who was it that was asking about the Pido Camiso? But there's another name. I know that... the only one I know of is Sonia Diaz as far as a facilitator. And they probably do all of that stuff because actually I know Sonia does driver's licenses here, does everything for you. So Green and Tom, too funny. You vote absentee, yes. They actually help you vote absentee. Oh, really? I didn't know in Ajijic they do. I've always known that you have to go out for a form or whatever. That's true. Mexican bureaucracy can be a nightmare. Yes, I voted from here without going. I voted by mail and considered it and couriered it to the U.S. with a U.S. stamp. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, the last election we were in Texas, so I voted there in Texas. I haven't actually done the absentee thing, to be honest with you. And we were actually in Monterrey during the last election. So, I mean, we were right there. And I still have a permanent address in Texas. So at that time, I owned a house there in that county where I voted. So, And there you go. I flew to Europe with both U.S. and Mexican passport. I've had little to no issues. Yeah, you have to carry both, depending on which country you're going to. Tom, that is the beauty of having dual citizenship, 2 or more passports to use as what is convenient or easiest. Yes, the only thing, Tom, is like I said, if you have a Mexican passport, you come back into Mexico, you have to come back in as a Mexican. And actually, my wife was told that they would let her in with her INE, but we still don't like. This is another example. Always do more. Always be over prepared. Load for the bear and hunt the squirrel. So my wife and I are going to get her passport. Hopefully, wish us luck. Rich, thank you. You're welcome. I know he had a matricula. Actually, he may, depending, they might be able to use a matricula. He has been in the U.S. for over 40 years next year. Yeah, Mal, there's a lot of people that have been in the U.S. since they were kids and have a matricula. For example, my nieces have a matricula. So very small town. Okay, that's where you might run into some issues. Actually born on the ranch. Yes, that's where you're going to run. And actually you said ranch. We're actually born on the ranch. You're going to have issues, Mal. You may. I'm not saying that you will, depending on how good that little town kept records. So if you're close enough to that little town, maybe go to the little town and find out what you need to save him a trip down here. But find out what they need and then, or contact them by phone. You're going to need to contact what they call the registro civil in that area. And or in that little town, or that services that little town, and see who keeps the birth certificates or where you need to go and what to go. You know what I mean? Gringos or Us have it. There's an entire trans culture in Oaxaca, always has been. They are recognized essentially as a third sex. I didn't know that, Gringos or Us. Now, I do know Oaxaca. The beach we went to is in the state of Oaxaca, and it was very LGBTQ friendly. But we haven't ever been to the state of Oaxaca. I didn't know that. Thank you for pointing that out. And this is a great help to Jerry. And it's going to help me with trying to do a video and an interview here. Cindy Ahihik is really helpful with the gay and trans communities. Great to hear. Robert, I got a bunch of time in PT. It's great. It's a great country, but they are overwhelmed with immigration and are really tired of people coming there. Well, like I said, Jesse, these are good answers, but I'm still going to be doing my research. Like I said, one of the things is when I was asked this question over email was I didn't want to get things wrong. And I also think it was a good cop. And I actually thank that person for emailing me. And I thank them very much for emailing me because I said, wow, this is an issue that really never has been touched on. It's kind of an issue that kind of everybody glances over. And I'm going to try to touch on it. Oh, you use the state. Okay. We use government officials as they were listed online. Each state was a little different in their application fees for the apostolate. We did not use any service. Okay. Yeah, Gringos or Us. I did it through the state of Texas, but they didn't send me they only sent me the actual apostolized document back. Yeah, I've done research. If you're naturalized and live outside of Mexico for 5 years, yeah, since I got it since birth, so far, everything. Yes, and Michael, you'll never get it taken away. If you got it since birth, even if you renounce your citizenship tomorrow that you need a U.S. government job, you don't lose it. Now, technically, you renounced it for the government job. So technically, you're not supposed to have any documents of your Mexican citizenship if you have a government security clearance, or if they allow it you to have the dual citizenship, that's fine. But if they don't, some agencies do require you to renounce your citizenship, and you officially renounce it, and you officially have to, until the day you retire. You could reclaim it back later on afterwards, but you have to show complete loyalty to the United States in a sense. So you have to renounce your citizenship, but that does not mean you lost it. Literally, in Mexico, if you are a citizen derived by birth, and it doesn't mean that you actually had to be born there. Your parents could be born there. If your citizenship was derived by birth, you have the right to citizenship, and you will always have the right to citizenship. Even if you claimed it, you haven't claimed it, or you renounced it, you always have a right to go back and claim your citizenship again. You never lose it, in a sense. In the country of Mexico. To the country of Mexico, you never lose it. Might be, I sure was unable to vote for the POS, but whatever it is, okay. I think the late Chapata survived. He and help you to vote if you desire. I would rather drink beer. Well, Tom, like I said, I don't get involved in politics, and I'm probably not going to vote this year, to be honest with you. Not for political reasons, just that, well, I mean, I don't really live there anymore, and not that I don't care, but it's just that I don't get too involved in that. I was thinking of taking a family member with me, La Huerta, Jalisco. Okay. And you said you were in Ajijic, so you're pretty close, I guess, because, so, yeah, just be careful and have a safe trip, Mal, and find out what it is, see what you need, and see if they even have it. Sometimes you might even be able to ask, especially if you have someone go with you and explain to them the situation. And a lot of times they'll go out of their way for you. Not all the time. There's government processes bureaucratic, in the sense that, they try to help you out the best they can. If it's something that's a rule that they can't break, well, it's a rule they can't break, or there's a rule that they can't. But they're going to be as nice as they can to you and try to help you out and tell you what you need. Yeah, there's some employees that are just jerks, and but you find that anywhere. You'll find U.S. government employees that are the same. I worked for the U.S. government. I know. Oh, you meant POTUS. Oh, too much wine. Oh, well, I meant POTUS. Well, like I said, the only thing that's affecting me right now is the exchange rate, and there's a lot of factors in the exchange rate, to be honest with you. A lot of people blame the current president for it. To be honest with you, it's a lot more factors than just the current president. The United States has been spiraling into a deficit. They've been spiraling into a deficit for the longest time. There's issues of trade with Mexico. Mexico is becoming the new China, like I said the last time. So their GDP is really growing, and they're not becoming the major exporter just to the United States. They're becoming a major exporter in the world. So there's a lot of factors that affect that. It's not just the president. Now, here's the problem that you have. Both new presidents can take different directions politically, stability, all of that stuff. All that matters with the exchange rate. But like I said, I don't get involved in politics. And I've gone 2 hours and 23 minutes. It's actually the longest that I've ever gone, and I got carried away. I always cut it off at about an hour and 30 minutes. And thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to cut it off now. I know you guys had a great time talking, but I try to cut it off at an hour and 30 minutes, because for those that benefit from watching it later, I don't want people to be like, oh, I'm just bored watching this for 2 hours. But I'm glad it benefits the users that were here. And if you want to watch the whole 2 hours and 23 minutes and you were stuck with me for the 2 hours and 23 minutes, I thank you. And thank you for all of your help. And thank you for all your support. And actually, I thank those community members that helped Jesse out here. I didn't have the answers. I'm still trying to research the answers, and And even I was even careful to even say anything because I don't know the answers. And I thank everybody for helping Jesse out. All I do is urge you guys to go to the YouTube channel that I'm going to leave. It's Tenaj, TENAJ, and the symbol and Tino Travels. If you can help them out, I'm going to put it up on the screen one more time. Hold on just 1 second because I think I might get some audio here. Hold on, I'm going to try to mute the audio here. So I'm going to put it back up on the screen again, so you can see. And I'm going to move out of the way here. Tenaj and Tino Travels. Let me see here. Oh, hold on. Well, I'm going to get in the way. Tenaj and Tino Travel, right under my underarm here. Go to their website. Give them support, even if it's emotional support. These guys went through a heck of a, and when you see this video, it's very emotional. Give them all the support you can. And even if you can't do it financially, give them some words of encouragement. Let them know you're on their side. Let them know that pour in, whatever support you can give. And like I said, I'm not here to criticize anything, but as Gringos R Us said, load for the bear, hunt for the squirrel. I couldn't have said it better. And that's what we need to do, is load for the bear and hunt for the squirrel. And thank you very much. And it was an actually Wahoo fan. Yes, this was an outstanding work. Well, not on my part, an exchange of knowledge. And that's not just me, Woohoo fan. It's all of you. It's you that's been able to, hey, you're saying Arizona State University, that's in Arizona. I mean, it's everybody that comes here. Like I said, I don't mind being corrected. What I do mind is being insulted in the name of being corrected. There's a way that we can do it. Just like I said right now, not too long ago, someone said, I made a post. I took a picture of a Porsche, and I made a sarcastic post that, yes, folks, we have high-end sports cars in Mexico, because I've had several people ask me. As a matter of fact, I've even had people say, oh, I like my sports car and I can't buy one in Mexico. I'm like, yes, you can if you want one. And so I made that post. And someone, in an insulting way, instead tried to treat me like I was some entitled American and said I needed to get out more often, and that the United States is not the center of the universe. And that's exactly what I talk about with us building stereotypes. We need to get away from these stereotypes. This person stereotyped me as an entitled American. He probably didn't even realize that I'm the administrator of that group, and he's probably never seen my channel before, and doesn't even realize that I actually happen to be half Mexican, and I'm married to a Mexican, and I don't live in the United States. And I was trying to tell people that, yes, the United States is just like, Mexico is just like the United States. And all those creature comforts, you can get them here too. And there's so many people that have misconceptions of what the United States is. I mean, not the United States, Mexico. And the same misconceptions about people from the United States. Because I know plenty of people from the United States that aren't entitled Americans, or entitled people I know plenty of people that have awesome attitudes, but unfortunately, it's those few that give us all a bad name. So I'm going to leave everybody with that. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. This was a great live. I really appreciate my community. Like I said, my community is about quality, not quantity. I don't put up with the drama. I don't put up with the insults. And the only reason why I left that insult up is because I did respond to it. And I will leave an insult up here and there, and because I feel that it deserves a response, because I feel that the community needs to know it. But like I said, we'll see you the next time. And as I always leave my live streams, and as I always leave my videos, until next time, stay safe and stay informed.